Heartiest welcome to Global Talk Show by Business Power Academy, Netherlands. And today, again in this journey of lovely, inspiring, motivational, you can say a great flow of inspiring stories. We are back again with another guest, and she is none other than Dr. Eva Agel. Welcome, Dr. Eva, to our show today, and it's been a great honor for me to host you today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Supriya. I'm so glad to be here. Honored, actually, to have been asked to be on your amazing global show.
Well, before I take a lovely deep dive, let me apprise of Dr. Eva. She's the founder, CEO, and president of Eva Eagle Brown, keynote speaker, author, life coach, and most important, she's a great, humble human being. And let's start without any delay, without any pause. Let's start this journey on. And Dr. Eva, I would love to hear your inspiring journey, which is going to inspire millions of people today who are watching us live and those who will be watching this video later. So I pass this dice to your court, and it's your chance to enlighten everybody with your inspiring life journey.
Thank you so much, Dr. Supra. So first of all, I wonder how much time we have, because I'm sitting in Jamaica, beautiful morning, and there's so much I could talk about this morning. But I really mentioned Jamaica because this is where it all started for me. I grew up here. I was born to a teenage mother who at the time was only 16 when she gave birth to me. And I can only imagine how that must have been. I have a 25-year-old daughter right now, and I can't even envisage her having a child as yet, because you just understand that you're not so fully developed in some cases to have children. But I was born into that familial situation of a teenage mother, and my father, or my so-called father, who was a teenager himself, had absconded her for her bastard spawn. I've been told as I grew up that my grandmother, my grandparents, my father's family did not want anything to do with my mom, predominantly because through a child's eyes at the time, they were rich and we were really rags. We were from nothing. And so my mother soon after ended up in a new relationship. And that's the familiar situation in which I was born. And I was born in an era where poverty was rife. I remember wearing hand-me-downs. And, I remember when my kids, I just came back from London 2 weeks ago, and I was packing barrels to ship to Jamaica with food for my kids. And my children are British, of course. And so I remember picking up all types of cereals, dumping them because my children are used to that. I said this to say that as a child, I didn't know any other cereal than plain cornflakes. That's how bad it was. And we grew up really dirt poor, with us not having food most of the time. When we did have ground provision like starches, we had no meat. And I remember going to school barefooted when I did go, because I didn't go as much. I remember sleeping on a mattress where the springs in the mattress, there were so many of us on the one bed because we lived in a one-room shack. It was about 15 by 15 or 15 by 12. And my mom would use a sheet and a piece of wire to separate it at night into 2 bedrooms. And at night, in the daytime, she would throw the sheet up on the wire. And that's what I grew up in. And for those of us who want to see my house, if you Google Dr. Eva Brown first home, it's on Google. It's a little shack. And I remember we would sleep in that bed. There are so many of us in that bed, and there were people wetting the bed. We were not potty trained, or we were just stressed, and there was so much trauma around as a child that the springs would start pricking you in your ribs at night. And in the mornings, I was the first one out because the bed was always wet. And I grew up in that life. I grew up not having, dining table. I sit outside and have my dinner on the stones, and we didn't have toilet. We had outside latrine. And life was difficult. And I remember my mom struggling to be a domestic helper, washing people's clothes in the village here and there. And I watched my mom and people I grew up around. I knew for myself that I wanted something different. I didn't know what difference was. I just knew that I wanted something different. And so very early on in my childhood, I started going to the markets to sell mangoes. My favorite fruit. I love mangoes till I can't help myself. Before I came on the show this morning, I went to the trees to pick up mangoes. And mangoes changed me for a lot of reasons. Mangoes helped me in ways as a child I never imagined. It was selling mangoes and the ridicule that I got. It was selling mangoes and the tenacity that I developed. It was selling mangoes on the train to take the money back home because I was the eldest child to my mom so that we could eat. But within that space, I didn't understand what life was doing to me. It was taking me on this path that I could speak. It was taking me on this path where today I'm dabbling in political affairs in Jamaica. It took me on the path of negotiation. And I'm going to pause and say to us that whatever life is teaching us, sometimes we're resisting. We need to allow life to ebb and flow, because as a 10-year-old girl, a 9-year-old girl on the pazers selling mangoes, I felt embarrassed, okay? Because I was selling mangoes in the same community I should be going to school in. So my peers would walk past me and they would ridicule me and they would call me mango girl. But let me tell you something. That was setting me up for the woman I am today. That was not all. That happened, and then I didn't know my father. He lived next door and people were gossiping he was my father, but he never owned me. He never gave me his name. And he had a girlfriend that came to live with him, and she took an interest in me that I didn't understand. Now, what you guys didn't know is that going to school, I was bullied heavily because I didn't have my father's surname. So there's an obvious thing there that there was something wrong with this child. And it was embarrassing because the man who was said to be my dad was living about literally 30 seconds walk from my house. And he would send me to the shop to buy cigarettes, but I dare not ask the question. I grew up in the era where you're seen or not heard as a child. And how dare you be disrespectful to ask that question? And so I remember he had this new girlfriend and she took a keen interest in me brushing my hair, whatever. And then one day she went to my mom and asked my mom if she could take me because she lived in another community far away. And my mom said yes. And I remember it was the first time in my life I felt about it. I was like, how could you do that? And long story short, I went to live with her. And in that house, I met some of the worst abuse of my life. My father sexually assaulted me. My stepmother's brother assaulted me. Her son assaulted me. She took me and pawned me to men. But if that was not enough, I was also the helper in that house. And I ran away from that house when my dad and her broke up. And then I went on this journey of living here, there, everywhere. I was like a rolling stone. I was like this child who was homeless. I lived at my high school. I've been abused after that. I've gone through so much. And I forged a life for myself regardless. I'm not going to go into the details. If you want to know more about my life, you have to check out my book, The Mango Girl, which is the story of my life that I've written. It's becoming a film and a documentary. I was in London 3 weeks ago, filming the trailer for the documentary with my executive producer. But that shaped me because in that space, although I had gone on this really hard journey, I managed to go to university. I managed to qualify as a teacher because it's not who you were born into that determines who you are, but who you choose to be. And I had to overcome a lot of obstacles, but I managed to become qualified as a teacher, got married, had my first house, built my first house, changed the narrative in my family's pattern. And then something tragically happened. I was held up and raped at gunpoint in front of my daughter, who was 2 years old. And that's what propelled me into the UK. And I had a mental breakdown. I thought I was gonna lose myself. And I remember as they held the gun to me on my daughter's necks, there were 4 of them. I remember them stroking her face like they wanted to rape her. And there was an instinct in that child to lie about her age, which I never understood. She was 3 years old. I think it was 2, 3 years old. And I remember when they asked her age, she lied and said she was 1 year younger. Don't ask me why. Sometimes the brain protects you. And we had to run to England because I just couldn't cope. But let me say something to you. In those moments of my life, I learned so much. I had a lot of healing work done, a lot of therapy done. But it's those batteredness, those brokenness, and those bruises that connected us today. Because had I not gone through those things, I would not have written my book. Had I not gone through those things, I wouldn't have been on LinkedIn. So I just want to celebrate my struggles because they have made me and shaped me and molded me into the woman I am today. And that's a little part of my story. It's not the entire part, but that's a little part of who I am in my journey so far. And I hope that was helpful.
Dr. Eva, after listening your story, I'm thinking you have gone through so many scars of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally. And had it been some other woman in your place, she has been given up today or broken down into millions of pieces, and she cannot be regained together, cannot pick up those pieces together and be another woman. And that's what you are, Dr. Eva, because life has made you so roughed up, so solid, that today I am hosting the most strongest women of this earth, I can say, because I have hosted so many people, but I have never listened this kind of tragic stories and so much of pain, scars, and so much of, I don't have words to say, to speak, but I can only feel your pain and say only one thing: you are very strong because of your past scars. You are a successful woman today because you had seen a lot of turmoils in your life, past life. And today, I really, really hats off to you, appreciate and respect your work, and a lot of blessings to you, Dr. Eva. Yeah.
And I want to thank you, because that's just the first part of my story. As I sit here today, my daughter has a brain tumor. Thank God it's not cancerous. As I sit here today, I just came out of a 10-year court battle with my ex-husband, 10 years in court. There are so many things that happened, but only yesterday, my son, who is 11 years old, I went to his graduation. And when I think about my life, and I if you go on my LinkedIn, I shared a post yesterday. I said, dear single mothers, and I'm not advocating single parenting, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying if you find yourself there, I wrote a letter to you. I want you to go and read it, because I'm a single mom, and I've been a single mom for many years, growing up my 2 children. And yesterday, my son, who's 11 years old, picked up 15 awards at his graduation, has passed for one of the best and the most elitist boys' school in the country. He has gotten he's a top footballer, top maths student, top social studies, best music student. He's beaten up so many awards that I just stood there in awe of my son. He picked up awards and things that I never envisaged, because I didn't realize that in my struggle, my children who've been on the journey were learning resilience, tenacity, courage under fire. My God. And I stood there and I said to you teachers, I did not know that even when they saw me struggling, especially my son, he used it as a motivator. And I cried. And I said, you know what, Lord? I said, Lord, thank you for the struggles. Because sometimes we don't realize that the resiliency muscle that we need to build can only come from struggle.
Exactly. I do agree.
Sometimes we don't understand that when we have challenges, it's building on mental resiliency. So I do not regret my struggles, because that was just my journey. Because I have a greater calling and a greater purpose on my life. And my story is not for me, Dr. Supriya. It's not mine. I'm the conduit through which it passes. And that's what we need to get out of our heads and recognize that our stories are not ours. They're for ours to share with others, to make it permissible for them to recognize that they too can navigate and get out of it. Because in life, we're either going through something, in the middle of coming out of something, or entering something. And the day that stops is the day we die. So embrace your struggles.
Wow. And I will say only one thing, that you have proved to the world that people can break you, shake you, rate you, hate you. But it's Dr. Eva that makes you. So awesome one, Dr. Eva. And I really, really appreciate your courage, your vigor, your strength, because this resilience will come only from a strong woman, and that's what you are today. And today, especially, you are touching millions of women who feel they are very fragile, very weak, and they can't do anything in this world. And you are doing
Mm.
a super awesome job. So hats off to you. And I really, really appreciate and respect your work. And when I
But
said
you're
the word
doing,
respect
but
your
you're
work,
doing great work. You're
yeah,
doing great work, and I don't want you to underestimate that because you are bringing those stories to the world. So don't you ever underestimate the work you do because you're a conduit through my story. You're a conduit for other stories. You are there, and your purpose in this is massive. Never underestimate that.
wow, awesome. Well, when I said the word work, Dr. Eva, now it's the time to learn something from you because you're an author and I know I saw your book and kindly enlighten your great work to my global audience today. That is about your book and your work. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love talking about my work because it feels like I'm playing every day. I've been up since 4 o'clock Jamaican time, working. So I work to UK time still, although I live between Jamaica and England. I'm sitting in a house at the moment that's being built, it's been constructed, as you guys can tell. I'm very proud of it. I'm not afraid to show it because this is part of my work. This is a house being built. This is my fourth house. I'm not yet 50. This is my fourth house single-handedly. And I really believe that from a girl who came from a family where reading is something that was never there. My mom still today doesn't read and write very well. Love my mom, don't get it wrong. But from coming from a family where generationally we were poor, and somebody like me, not just me, but there are persons in my family breaking that cycle. And I can sit in a house that today's 2 years since I came to Jamaica. And within 8 months, I actually came to Jamaica and built this house from scratch. It was just dirt, a piece of land. And within 8 months, we're living in this. That's a testament to who I am. And that's my work. My work is, I'm not just a book coach. And I know that's a lot on LinkedIn because I tend to post a lot of that because I do this LinkedIn audio live. By the way, if those of you want to come and join us later, we have an audio live. Follow my page and you'll find it. And when we talk about books, and we're working on an anthology now about lessons that we learned from COVID, so I'm inviting persons to come and join. But I'm a life coach. I help women cross over. I help women work through stuff. I help women shift the trajectory of their minds to realize that whatever you've been through, you can use that to motivate you and inspire you. And you can use your pain to become purpose and profit. Let me repeat that. Pain can be recycled into purpose and profit. So my pain has been recycled into my purpose and my pain has become profitable. I share my story all over the world. I coach, I train, I speak. I was just in London recently at a women's conference in Birmingham speaking. I've gone to Steve Harvey in Atlanta. I've spoken on stage with Sherry Lee Roth, Les Brown. I've shared the same stage as Tony Robbins and Eric Thomas and so Lisa Nichols and so many more because that's the business I do. I speak. So if you have speaking engagements, it doesn't matter. I travel everywhere. I've got a British passport. I'm free to travel. But my work has now taken me into politics. So I'm dabbling in Jamaican politics at the moment. I consult in political affairs. Something I never really even thought about. I'm just following where life is leading me. I train, I do a lot of training for corporate and individuals in sales and negotiation, but I also do book writing and publishing because I believe that there's so many things that we wanna talk about, we wanna leave our legacy. And I believe that books are gonna walk in through doors that your feet will never go. Look at us, we're having this conversation. We've never met. I may never come to India or Netherlands. I've been to the Netherlands, but we may never have crossed paths. But my book brought us together. So those are some of the things that when I really take the life coaching very seriously, because if you can literally tackle the fear and the gremlins and the pain that sits deep in your soul, you can become your best self. And let me speak to the woman. We carry things in our womb that we carry in our hearts, our heads, and our heads. We have to take out of the seat of our womb the trauma, not the drama, the trauma we carry. This is why we're having so many women are having all kind of pains in their wombs and womb situations and womb illnesses. We have to do the womb forgiveness, the womb healing. And I work with my friend Audrey Joseph on literally working on forgiveness because forgiveness is the big piece of the healing process. And a lot of us make the massive mistake to think that
Right.
forgiveness is about the person. Forgiveness is about yourself. And you've got to get to that place where you recognize and you understand that it's about yourself. And until we understand that, we're never going to cross over. We're going to carry the pain to our graves. So that's the kind of work I do. I'm all about shifting your mind, helping you to forgive with my partner, Audrey Joseph, and get you set up to live the life, the best life you came on earth to do. And I do this through three ways. I coach, I train, I speak, I publish. What do I help you to do? I help you to clean up the grind and the grit and the issues in your tissues. And then I help you to elevate and amplify your voice. That's the kind of work I do.
Great work, Dr. Eva. And here I will request my all global audience who are watching us live, if you want to be a better person, a best version of your life, be a great life coach, then none other than better than Dr. Eva we are having. So contact her. She is going to guide you, motivate you, and of course, go through her book because it's fantastic. And it will tell you the most beautiful, most inspiring, and most strongest story of the mango world. And I'm going to take my copy too from the Amazon today, Dr. Eva, because I'm so excited to learn about your life, to know about your life. And I'm going to take a lot of inspiration from your story. So that's awesome. And moving ahead, Dr. Eva, would love to know what are your plans for your future? What is your mission? What is your vision? And that's the beauty of this global talk show. Exactly.
Ooh, thank you. I love that question. Oh my God. There was a time, another part of my story I'm going to share. I'm working on a documentary that speaks to losing 100,000 US dollars. Me losing that. Becoming homeless in London. I'm writing my next book called Dr. Ava Eagle Brown, The Woman of Steel and Stone. Yeah. And that's my second personal book. Yes. And I lost $100,000 to a guy who came from Hollywood saying that he was a movie director and he was going to make my movie. He did a lot of things, but the long and short of it, he was a charlatan. He literally conned me. And it put me in a place where I became depressed. So let's speak the truth. I became depressed. Can we just address that elephant in the room? Yeah, I was suicidal. Let's just address that elephant in the room. Yeah, because so many of us are having that elephant in the room and we're afraid to address it. And I went to a place where I was at rock bottom, and you will see me on big stages. I was in Poland, big stages, and 15,000 people doing amazing stuff, speaking all over the world. But I was in the night, I was crying because I lost so much money. I was in a nasty divorce. I was a single mother. I was struggling. But today, oh my God, I spoke it earlier about the challenges you go to and how they prepare you for what's to come. Today, we're working on a documentary. Today, we're working on the Mango Girl film, the actual book to become a film. And I just had a conversation this morning with my executive producer who's in England. Today, we're working on this. So my plans for the future are a couple. He said to me today, Ava, what's your mission? It's crazy you asked me. I said, look, I want to get the film made, continue to speak on stages. I want to share stories. I want to open my own proper talk show where I deal with vulnerable people who've been to the spaces that I've been. I want to mentor young people. I do that now. I mentor disadvantaged girls who are in the pit of life. I work with a women's center here in Jamaica that takes in teenage mothers, because my mom was one, so that's something I'm really passionate about. But I work with the disaffected, people who are the underdogs, the overlooked, the perceptually who will not make it, like me. People. I remember one guy in my community told me, I'm gonna say it in my language, I'm gonna translate. You go, you soon breed, you soon have nothing, you soon breed. And he was casting an aspersion that I'm gonna have a lot of children and just become nothing. That was his thing. I want to talk to those young girls who people have told them a story that's not true about themselves. Exactly. So what is my mission? To continue to motivate, inspire, help. I want to go into movie production, which I'm doing an understudy right now. I'm understudying to become a producer. Politics I like, but I'm not sure that I want to go into representative politics. I want to be behind the scenes. But I think if you draw a line into the one statement of what I want of my mission to do is to transform.
Wow.
I want to continue to transform lives using my story and my
And you are
experience.
transforming, no doubt. Today in this live show, you are transforming each and every one's lives, including me. Because when I see your story, when I listen to your story, I'm thinking you are as strong as the mountain. You can break the mountains now, because that's Dr. Eva. And the most strongest women, the most inspiring women who has inspired millions of women today in this show. And I'm so, so happy to listen your inspiring, motivating stories. How you can say what a courage you are having, Dr. Eva. And I'm really flat, inspired, impressed. No words coming in my mouth. Exactly. Well, Dr. Eva, it's really lovely being with you in this global talk show. And before I say goodbye to you and my lovely audience, everybody is waiting for your powerful message once again.
Thank you. I want to leave you with a couple of things, because I think that so often we listen to what people say and we get inspired and we hoorah, motivated. And then what? What then? The difference with me and a lot of people is the fact that we have the same story. My story is not unique. There are millions of people with my story. The difference, however, is that I take massive action. I want you to come off this conversation today, and I want you to sit down and ask yourself, what will you do today, this hour, towards your greatness, towards your purpose, towards fixing the issues in your tissues? What are the plans you have on paper that you'll never execute? You have them written down. Is that book on the paper? I'm going to write a book one day. I'm going to open that business. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to leave that bad relationship, but you never take action. My one strongest message, I'm going to give you a couple, but the strongest message for you today is to take action. The universe responds to movement. Let me say that again, because somebody missed it. Somebody missed it. The universe responds to movement. You know, my son's achievement yesterday was because my son, without realizing, is competitive. That's responding. He is acting. He's taking action. And because he's competitive, he does his homework. He makes sure that he's at school. He doesn't want to miss a day. Those are things and the contributions and the criteria that add up to greatness. So what am I saying to you here? Your issue is different from everybody else's issue. That's okay. But what are you doing about it? What action are you taking? That's number one. Number two, do not listen to what people have to say about you. It is what you say about you that makes the massive difference. What you say about you.
Exactly.
Number three, it's never too late to start something that you intended to do. It is never too late. So if you want to start that business, if you want to start that talk show, if you want to go and write a book, if you want to go on holiday, whatever it is, do it in the now. Do it in the now, because tomorrow is never promised. You know, when I was building this house, I remember people saying, oh, but you can't move in it like that. Yes, I can. I believe in here. I can. Because if I die, I would have lived in the now in this house. I enjoy the fruits of my labor.
Exactly.
And another thing I want to say to you, stop trying to live in perfection paralysis.
Right.
Some of you are sitting here watching me thinking, oh, I couldn't, how did she come on here without makeup? Yes, I can. Because I don't do the perfection paralysis. How can she come with her stairs like that? Yes, I can. It's clean. Some of you are stuck because you're trying to be perfect in everything. And it paralyzes you from stepping out. It is better to be out than not out at all. It is better to be done than to be perfect. So get up. Stand up.
Awesome. And
take action today.
Take action is the time. And I'm sure after watching this episode of Global Talk Show, people who are demotivated, people who don't know where to go, what to do, how to find their way, this episode will really, really inspire you and helps you to be the best version of yourself. I guarantee it. So thank you so much, Dr. Eva, for coming to our show. And it's been a great pleasure hosting you today. It's my great luck today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And to everybody, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, my global audience, for always loving us, inspiring us, motivating us. Keep doing that. Stay happy, Helenati. Bye-bye for now.